Edgar,
Hi Dirk.
how are ya?
Morning everyone. Hey, it's still raining, so we're doing our second recording here because you're on holidays now and I'm all on my own.
This is the wonder about technology, isn't it?
we can do it ahead of time. So, and I know what I'm going to preach. So Sunday week it's my turn.
Yeah. Is that still the series on the Holy Spirit?
Yeah, probably the last one.
Last one, okay.
For now, so it's on speaking in tongues. Speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
So, from our background, it was hugely controversial. Was it controversial in your background?
Well, I know this is going on YouTube, but therefore it's going to be a permanent kind of a thing. But I have shared it on a few occasions when it happened to me, and it happened to me in a kind of wow kind of a way. And then suddenly I have 5 different languages to speak, and it got recorded and everything else. And my parents got a DVD out of all of that. And then on one occasion, I was down visiting. And of course, my dad, having grown up in that environment and teaching where it just does not, exist, I asked him, well, what do you think of my testimony and what's happened to me? And he sort of said, this is where I sort of think, oh my goodness me, Dad, couldn't you have just sort of said something nice, without this blurting out? But he said, the only people I know who speak in tongues are demon possessed. It's like, I was all thinking, what have you just said to your son?
But he didn't really know any demon-possessed people that spoke in tongues.
No, but for him it was like, well, it's not the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
So it's got to be something else, Yeah. So it was that teaching that you don't actually have.
But how old were you when that happened? That was 2004. How old were you? 40s? 40s? But when you were, 25 years earlier, when you were at the seminary, you almost spoke in tongues.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell that testimony? Because I find that very interesting too.
I had a good friend of mine when we were in the seminary, so the teaching college, university for the theological part, and they had dormitories, and right next to me was a good mate of mine. He actually became then the bishop for the Latvian church, and right, so he had Latvian roots, and they sent him over to America.
Yes.
And he attended the Toronto kind of thing and brought back this experience.
So he got filled with the
Holy Spirit.
He was speaking in tongues.
Oh, yeah.
And then he goes into Lutheran Church Seminary next door to you.
Well, actually, he was already a mate of mine. During that time he went there, right?
Okay.
Came back. And so he said, hey, look, this has happened to me. Would you like to have the gift of speaking in tongues? And I thought, it's scriptural. Yeah. And so he prayed for me to receive it. And I remember, this is so strange in terms of sometimes, I guess, we do pray for it, but we also have an ability to block it.
Yes.
And I remember he prayed for me. And I said, yeah, I'm open to receive the Holy Spirit. And I started to feel it welling up like this bubbling well. And it's like came over my mouth, my tongue and kind of stuff, and was just about to start. And I in my head, I said, stop it. That's it. And every time the Holy Spirit wanted to prompt me, it only ever went up to there. It never came out as anything for a long time until I had that near-death experience of it.
Oh, so in subsequent experiences,
I could feel it, but I could never speak it.
Isn't that interesting? So you could stop it. And I think that is a really important lesson that, the Holy Spirit comes, but it's by invitation.
Yeah.
So if we don't surrender to the experience, you can actually put a stop to it. And we know that in the prayer line when people come and we know that people are not ready to receive, you can sense it. I have a question. At that time, when that happened to you and the gift of tongues would have come, do you think that would have been the time that you would have been baptized with the Holy Spirit? When were you actually baptized with the Holy Spirit? Do you know? Was there a time?
I guess, I had a number of Holy Spirit moments.
Yes.
I mean, really, like, for instance, my call into the ministry was a real heaven experience. It's like, I was on the farm at the time, and there was an evangelist, and I
yes,
came
yes.
and I listened. I sat in the middle of all of that. Suddenly, everything disappeared. I was in this presence, and I know that God sort of said, "I want you in ministry." I mean, it was almost like, wow. I mean, how much more, amazing can it be? But that's actually, I've had God speak into my life on numerous events, and so I would say, if I were to say what happened there when I prayed to receive the gift of speaking in tongues, definitely that was where God was saying, I want to pour something into you. The other ones is more like, I want to call something out of you.
Yeah.
But this one was like, no, I want to invest my
yeah.
spirit in you. So it may have actually been the time when I was baptized in the Spirit. But
yeah, because so many times in the Bible it seems to come together.
yeah,
And I'm actually going to talk about that a bit on Sunday. So I'm going to talk about the gift of speaking in tongues, the purpose, how to receive it, lots of different aspects of it. The way it happened for me is that it came even though I didn't want it.
you didn't even want it.
I didn't want it. And so I didn't pray for it, or I didn't see it coming. No one prayed for me. It was a prayer meeting with some other pastors, and I just thought, it was without thinking, but I thought some words wanted to come out, and opened my mouth and I spoke. No emotional experience, no bubbling, anything coming up. Like, I just spoke words I didn't know, and I thought, oh, that's funny. Like, that's a bit unusual. I didn't know, what's that? And then you think, oh, what's that? I think maybe it's the gift of speaking in tongues.
Wow.
Like, I didn't ask anyone.
Yeah.
Kept it to myself. But, even when it came for me and I had that gift, I didn't have a huge desire to speak it. Like, I know that with you sometimes when, it's a Holy Spirit moment and the meeting goes a certain way, you have it welling up. You have to speak
I had that
it.
prompting. It's
you
almost
have
like
that prompting. And
yeah.
I probably get that a little bit in a worship service, like it's easy to speak in tongues, but at home, like, it's more out of discipline. And it's not something that, is my most favorite part, because your mind is not engaged. So I like my mind engaged a little bit. So I find it interesting, and a lot of people that have the gift don't use it.
I saw a report many years ago from the States, and they looked at a lot of the Pentecostal charismatic churches where speaking in tongues was something that was practiced and taught and part of their doctrine. They found that most people who have received the gift of speaking in tongues have stopped after 3 years.
Yeah, because of that. Because the mind is not engaged. Some actually a bit bored by it. It takes, like anything, discipline to do it. But I have to say, I have kept it up.
Yeah.
In terms of, and I do find, you can be exhausted, you can be down, things can go on. You can always pray in tongues, and when you pray in tongues, things can shift.
Yes.
Because it's actually the Spirit of God witnessing to your spirit, and the Spirit of God making the truth of God and even the emotions of God, communicate to your spirit, and you speak it out. It's actually on your lips.
Yeah.
And
doesn't the Bible even say that in speaking in tongues we edify ourselves?
We build ourselves up. So
Yeah.
why would you not want to do it? And so you pray in tongues for a while, and things shift. Your thinking shifts, your attitude shifts, revelation comes. It's a great gift to have.
I just like listening to it too.
Oh, do you?
Sometimes, yes, the mind is not engaged in terms of, I don't know what I'm saying, if you like. I have an inkling. I sort of have a kind of a knowing that we're dealing with this or we're dealing with that. But verbatim, I can't tell you what's actually being spoken. But because of this is kind of like this language, and I'm sort of fascinated. It's almost like watching myself on SBS, it's like, what is this coming out of my mouth?
I do like your languages. I like listening to them. And I always try and interpret and know what you're saying, but it hasn't happened so far. But anyway, it's a fascinating gift.
Yeah.
There is, unbelievably, even among Christians, can be a negative reaction. We know it's in the Bible. We know all over the world people speak in tongues, but we still are a little bit iffy about it. And yet it is a gift from God.
Paul even says, are you going to say that?
No,
Paul even says, I wish that all of you would speak in tongues.
Yeah, and he said, I'm so glad I speak more in tongues than all of you. so a bit competitive. It's a great gift. So if we can be relaxed about it, we can actually appreciate it, and it builds us up, and we need that in this season, isn't it?
Well,
The
I
whole
find
world is
that
shaking.
for me, it's part of my prayer language.
Yes.
And I need it as part of my prayer language.
Yes.
So when I'm down, and it says there in Romans somewhere that when you have no words to say, the Spirit Himself speaks to us with groans.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of thinking sometimes maybe this is the part where the Holy Spirit just takes over and says, "Look, I know that you're not aware of what you actually need to pray for.
Yeah.
Let me give you the words to say."
Yes, and I love that as well. And intercession. I may just think of a person and speak in tongues.
Yes.
And so let God do the intercession according to how He wants it. Yeah. So anyway, that's encouragement. If you want to come, listen to a message on speaking in tongues. We want to try it out as a church. We probably do a bit of interpretation on the day. And if you haven't got the gift, come for prayer.
Fantastic.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.